John Thomason and maybe a colleague from Atmos? Great. John, you introduce your colleague as well. This is the Tessa heat exchange unit to make the most of waste heat.
Correct. Okay. Good. Hi there, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name's John Thomason of Atmos Heating Systems, and I'm here with my colleague Patrick, who has been working with me on this project, which we call Tessa. In fact, the name came from the PR man who did the Next Gen, when we did Next Gen last year. He came up with that idea. Just say a little bit about myself. Although I graduated in mechanical engineering a very long time ago, after a few years working in offices, I decided to become a plumber because I'd like to get my hands dirty, and I've done heating engineering. So I've been a heating engineer most of my working life, and started Atmos Heating Systems about 15 years ago with another patent that we did, which we've sold about £500,000 worth of stuff, so that's going okay. Anyway, being a heating engineer, I'm driving down the motorway one day and I'm looking at these cars and I'm thinking, I spend my time putting radiators in houses to give heat to warm them up. I'm driving this car that's chucking out heat from a radiator to the atmosphere. There's something wrong here. So I decided to explore it a little bit. Could we capture some of that waste heat? So, thinking about it, the problem is, just in the UK, we've got 34 million vehicles on the road, and they contribute to about 30% of the UK carbon emissions. And so, what can be done about reducing it? That's a lot, 30%, all those vehicles. When we look at internal combustion engines, we find that this is what drives your car, 30%, a little bit used on cabin heating. The rest of it is waste. I don't know if you realise that, but driving your car, about 65% of the energy is disappearing. That's not very good, is it? But not generally something that waste, you don't see it, do you? It's invisible. Car manufacturers don't talk about it, but there's improved engine efficiency, they've reduced the weight of vehicles, but the internal combustion engine, it's still about 30% efficient, because you have to keep the exhaust temperatures high because of all the nasty emissions that come out of the engine. Being a heating engineer, we've just had the law changed that boilers must now no longer be 80% efficient, they've got to be a minimum of 90% efficient, right? That's gas boilers, you know, condensing gas boilers. Cars get away with 30% efficiency. How come? The car manufacturers, and this is one of my difficulties, it's a bit of an embarrassment to them because they say our cars are really efficient. They don't say our cars are 30% efficient, or they've gone up to 32% efficiency. They don't say we're now wasting 65% instead of 68%. They just don't tell you. But that's waste. And we need to get that waste and do something with it. And that's what's kind of fired me when I started on this 10 years ago. I'm not trying to be particularly technical, and I realise that time is short, but in essence what we decided to do is try and capture the exhaust heat, because the exhaust heat can be up to 600 degrees C coming out of the engine, all disappearing out of the tailpipe. So we decided to capture the exhaust heat. We put it into a store. I haven't got my prop here. It's parked on stand H3 out there. It's a Land Rover, and you'll see the thermal store. We've done a project over the past year developing this so we can demonstrate it, and so it's out there if you'd like to look at it, and there's some leaflets describing how it operates, which Patrick has got if you want to see those. We use a phase change material, which is a high density thermal storage material, and we can store 7 kilowatt hours, and if you want to know what that is, if you've got an average size hot water tank in your house, it'll heat that up. So you catch the heat when you're traveling, you store it, you plug it in to your house when you get home, and it pumps the heat from the store on the car and into your hot water tank. Sorry, I haven't done a description of how the technology works because I'm trying to go rather quickly. But have I said enough about how it works? It stores the heat from the exhaust in the back of your car, and then you take it out and use it. And we've done it, and we've proved that it works, and the vehicle's out there. We can use this heat for a number of reasons. We've just got a battery, a heat battery if you like. We can use it to preheat the engine, to heat the cabin in cold weather, and cold climates in particular need heat. If you go to Canada, you have to plug your car in at night to, heat it up so it doesn't freeze up overnight. And externally, we can use the heat to do domestic hot water, space heating, commercial heating. It's just waste heat. Capture it and use it. Commercial applications. We've looked at commercial applications, and there are quite a number of them. I've listed them there. We can use it on board the vehicle for engine preheating, but we discovered that if you're going to get anything into the car industry, it takes years, although Jaguar Land Rover are working with us on it, and they take years, bless them. There's the lorry industry, cab heating, preheating the engine because they run the engines for a long time to keep them warm, motorhomes, narrowboats, and cold vehicles, cold climate vehicle warming. Those are the applications that you can use the heat. So we've got a choice. We're very much at the prototype stage. We've got it, we've proved it works, we've got the heat, we've stored it, we've done it. Now what are we going to do with it? All those are potential applications. We want to pick one. After the Next Gen exhibition, we did this last year, and I want to say thank you to Next Gen for giving us the stand to promote this technology, and we've had quite a lot of interest since then. And these guys came to us, they said, we've just done an Antarctic expedition and our problem is heat. We have to melt the snow for drinking water, we have to keep the engines warm, we have to keep the batteries warm else they go dead in cold weather. And so they're doing another expedition next year, and we'll be working with them to provide heat stores. That'll give us a very good test on cold climates. On Monday I drove up to Canada, where, I don't know if you've heard of Ranulph Fiennes, the Antarctic explorer. He's setting off on a trip across the Antarctic on the 6th of December, the Antarctic winter. This is the cabin they'll be sleeping in, and they want to look at heat storage there because they need a lot of heat at -70. So that'll be a good test. Our barriers to getting the technology taken up is it's waste heat that I've already said that nobody sees. So, you don't see the heat going over your exhaust pipe, do you? So you've got a psychological barrier. If it was waste paper, it'd be all right. Current EU regulations can't recognise it. We took it to the Department for Transport, and the chaps came out and looked at it, and they said, really good idea, we like it. The only trouble is, we can't recognise it. I said, well, it'll save about 15% of the vehicle energy, 20%. Yeah, but we can't recognise it because the law, EU law, can't see outside the vehicle. And then, as Gaynor said, there's a renewable heat incentive, but they've said they won't recognise waste heat from fossil fuel. Why not? I don't know. It's waste heat. So the future, well, some people say electric vehicles will take over. I doubt it, with their limited range and cost of batteries. Hybrid vehicles, range extended electric vehicles are ones with an internal combustion engine that generates electricity, so they can use the heat on the internal combustion engine, and the internal combustion engine is going to be around for a long time. So what am I saying is that there's going to be a lot of waste heat kicking out of these vehicles. Can we capture it? What are Atmos looking for? A bit of moral support is nice. It's nice that we got funding from the Northampton Enterprise Partnership. It's nice that we've come here to NextGen. This has been a little bit on our own. We're only a small company, and I've done this almost on my own for the last 10 years, till Patrick came along to rescue me. A bit of moral support is very helpful. Legislative changes, we're going to have a crack at changing European vehicle emissions law, and we've got Malcolm Harbour, the European MP for the Midlands, who's going to help us with that. We're seeing him on the 1st of November. We're looking for manufacturing partners for immediate applications, because we want to get into those applications I showed you. Any one of those would do us. There's such a big range of applications that if we could get 10,000 vehicles, that would do us for a few years, you know, at £3,000 a unit. We'd like investors with long-term interest in energy and end users to test the system. That's it in summary. I haven't gone into technical details, I haven't gone into financial details, and I'm sure our friends in the corner will have their bows and arrows ready to fire at me to ask questions about money, and I'm going to introduce my shield, Patrick, to answer some of those questions. So that's it.
Thank you very much. I know I've got a few questions, but I'll let the other dragons ask first. Yeah, whoever grabs the microphone first. Well done.
Hi. Yeah, John. Yeah, it just renewed my faith in humanity. I just endlessly amazed at the ingenuity of human beings, and I think it's a super idea, and I like your description of your Damascene moment where you comparing rejected heat from a heat engine versus rejected heat from a radiator in a house, and the incongruity of the way we use energy in our economy. How far would you have to drive a car to heat up your 20 litres of fluid to get your 7 kilowatt hours stored? How far have you got to go?
Well, an example, on Monday I drove up to Cannock to see the Ranulph Fiends team. It was an hour's drive, about 60 miles, and it heated up to about 270 degrees centigrade. At 300 it's fully charged, and they were able to warm their hands on it, and they believed me when I said it stores heat. Is that...
Well, I guess in terms of making it work, you're making the car heavier.
Correct, yes.
And I've seen what my wife does to the fuel economy in my car when she climbs in. So
leave her behind then.
She's not that big, but it is an issue.
Yes, it is.
But there must be a sweet spot somewhere where it makes sense, and probably
yes, there is.
Probably on shorter journeys of the sort which you describe. But when it comes to ships and boats and that sort of thing, well, weight ain't that important.
Correct.
And that would be the place I would look first.
Yes,
honestly.
I think you're right, because lorries is in fact quite a big market for heat storage, and weight isn't a problem. So that's going to be our first port of call in terms of commercial venture. We've got consultants on board with us who are going to help us to commercialise, because we want to get commercial partners before we spend any more on research and development, because there's no point in doing that unless someone's going to buy it.
It would be very nice at a vehicle refuelling station if the guy who bunkers the fuel into your vehicle could offload some heat and give you a discount on your fuel bill.
Yeah, okay.
Shipping would be good, wouldn't it?
I don't know. Shipping, they're using the heat all the time. This is offsetting or using it in a different location. So, you know, you can't use it much on the car, but you can use it in your home. So we're storing it, but on a ship, I think. Motorhomes and barges have come up as good applications as well. So really, we're storing it and saying use it at a different time or in a different place.
It's an interesting market space, but the challenge is how do you turn this from a nice-to-have into a must-have, and ultimately that will involve breaking through with the automotive companies.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned Jaguar Rover, I think, in your presentation. What is the feedback from these automotive companies thus far on your technology? And
Very simple. Unless there's any way the energy saved can be accounted to the vehicle itself, not interested. Simple as that.
okay, so the next question is, what do you need to do to make it of interest?
That's why we're seeing Malcolm Harbour, the European MP, who's promised to help us look at this on the European legislation side. However, having said that, the bigger vehicles that need engine preheating, cold climates, they use what's called a Webasto. It's a fuel-burning heater. And in fact, I wouldn't say this to Land Rover, but they fit them to Range Rovers as standard. They don't tell you, and they come on automatically at 7 degrees C. But it doesn't come in the NEDC drive cycle test, so it's concealed. But you use extra fuel to heat the engine. This will get rid of that. But there's got to be some recognition of it. But there's plenty of, I believe the lorry industry is up for, is much more up for this. And if we can get it out into one market, that will push into the other markets, the car market.
Have you done a cost-benefit analysis of your technology?
Yeah. Do you want to say anything, Patrick?
Speaking very broadly, we also do hot water solar systems. This produces more heat at a cheaper cost than those. Now, at the moment, solar heating systems, hot water version, we don't sell that many of them, about the same as PV used to be before feed-in tariff came in. So enter renewable heat incentive, and this is more cost-effective than the hot water solar systems. We think that when that happens, we'll get a similar uptake that will trigger that. As of now, in terms of using it for domestic hot water, it wouldn't work. It's not commercially attractive. It is the lorries, the motorhomes, as John has said, or perhaps narrowboats, where you need much more heat than just a bit of hot water. That's the sort of application where it does make sense commercially. Yes, we've done the numbers for that. I don't think the audience particularly want to see it in detail, but it stacks up in that situation. It doesn't stack up in a domestic one as yet.
Okay. And thirdly, in terms of patent protection,
yes,
have you applied for anything?
We have two. One is granted patent, which is European, and another one which is patent pending.
And what do they cover?
The first one, the main one, is the core method of getting the heat out. Now, it's so simple you wouldn't believe that somebody hasn't patented this before, but basically it says we store some heat and we get it out by having a conducting plate between the main heat exchanger and the secondary one, which has the water to go to the house or wherever. So it's using conduction as a means of heat transfer, which is like so obvious, but actually nobody has patented it before, and we've got that within Europe. Within this context, within the context of having heat stored on a car for use elsewhere. Various other people have dragged trailers around with large amounts of water to do the same thing. Actually, feel free, you know. But to do it efficiently and safely, we believe that conduction is actually the only way practical.
Hi, John. I was just thinking about my drive home this evening, back to London. I was just wondering, how long would it be after plugging my car in? How long would it be until I could get into the bath, basically?
It's really seen as an overnight thing, that when you get home, you heat your hot water tank overnight. It's slow heat transfer, deliberately, because we don't want any steam or any nasties. We want it to be gentle, safe and easy. You park your car, it pumps it up. When you come out in the morning, it's got an electric catch on it so that you can't start the engine with the hoses plugged in. But it would heat over. It takes several hours to transfer the heat.
Okay, all right. So I'll probably be looking to go to work again by that point. But
we can have a bath in the morning.
It's all right. No, I mean, I think my thought is that there's clearly a gap in the market for this, but I'm just trying to think sort of where the market in the gap is, because it seems that you've got the extra weight, you've got the cost of it, there's the time, there's losing your boot space.
Yeah.
And I think, being completely honest, I think you need to really nail those and conquer those bits,
yeah,
before it's a really commercial, viable proposition.
That's a statement, not a question.
Sorry, yeah, a bit.
Yeah,
I mean,
fine.
Yeah, sorry.
You're right.
I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yes. Yes, painfully. Yes.
I think that's as harsh as we get on the renewables drag. Instead, it's a bit the equivalent of "I'm out."
It's all right.
I think your point about can Gaynor get the renewable heat incentive, I just thought I'd have a go at answering that. Like I said earlier, you know, renewables doesn't always have the trump card for being the greenest solution to things. You know, there's a few examples where people have said, you know, coal mine methane hissing out of the ground, can't we use it? It's a crime to let it go into the environment, and I would have to agree. And when you look at heat pumps, you know, working to extract low-grade heat in the ground, and then there's you know, large thermal power stations where it will be so much more easy and effective to extract the waste heat. It doesn't qualify. It's not particularly logical, but honestly, we have enough of a job trying to get the government to reward properly renewable energy and stick to what they say they'll do. So much as I'd love to do that, you know, and I see all my moral support is there, I think is what I'm trying to say.